Hello, Lou. How are you?
Hey Tren, how you doing?
It's a bit cold today.
It's freezing today where we are, of course, recording ahead of time.
Exactly.
Oh my
Yes.
fucking God.
Today.
All right, let's do the card of the day.
Yeah, card of the day.
Card
Card
of
of
the
the episode.
episode.
Card
I
of the
need to get
episode.
that right.
And I will tell you what we're doing today. We're actually interviewing this beautiful lady, Lou. Lou, I'm just going to jump ahead. Lou has written a book, Tarot Tells. So look out for it because we're going to be talking about it anyway.
Thank you. Yeah, pretty exciting, really.
Yeah.
What a journey.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
fuck, don't you learn some shit about yourself? Yeah.
So what's the card? What do we need to know about this episode? What do we need
What
to
do
keep
we
in,
need to know?
keeping our focus for the episode?
Focus on us in one sentence, like anyway.
Oh, it's the Queen of Wands.
Oh, that's
Queen.
funny.
We're using the light seers deck, so it's the Queen of Wands. I mean, look at the brightness of her. She's just doing her own thing and dancing to her own tune, isn't she?
She is. She
Oh,
is.
look at that.
And it's interesting because it's like in her hand, she's holding this light,
Yeah.
and it's like she's got the other arm up, like
Yeah.
raising the vibe, you might say. That's how I see that. Yeah.
So it really, it's almost like I'm looking at it because what we're talking today, it's like she's really focusing on what she wants to bring into being.
Yeah, that would make
Yes,
sense. And that's what it's about, really.
And really enjoying herself too, isn't
Yep.
she? She really is enjoying herself.
I love the Queen of Wands.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, she's lovely. Oh, look what's on the
Oh
bottom.
my
The
God,
sun is on the bottom.
The sun is my favorite card, as we all know. So it's almost like this subconscious part of today is being brought out and up into the
the
world,
ether.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Anyway,
I have my questions.
Beautiful. Let's go. Fire 'em
All
off.
right. Now, Lou, you've been reading tarot for many years. How long have you had this book in you?
Oh my God. I've had this book in me probably for at least 20 of the years I've been reading for.
Oh,
I've been reading for like 40 years.
Yeah.
So, but around 20 years was when I was like, how do I get this stuff out of my head? Because I'd be either sharing a workshop with someone or teaching someone something or even just doing a reading.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, there's this.
There's this.
And I don't know, for those of you who had a reading with me, you'll find I tend to explain what I'm doing as I go. And that's really why. So I can get it out of my head. Because once it's in there, it just stays there. Yeah. So the book was cathartic in getting it out.
Getting it out. Why now? What changed that you had to get it out now?
That is a really cool question. And I think it's, to be honest with you, over the last 6 years, say, having my own space to do it and also having the confidence.
Yes, that confidence is a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Like I've done a shit ton of work in these last, 7 years, whatever it is, 6, 7 years, and learned a lot about myself. And in that process was, I went and did many different things. For those that follow me on social media, you go back, you'll see all these different things I was doing. And doing all of that and meeting with those different people allowed me the confidence. Like it built up the confidence. Built up the confidence, because I remember thinking, if I can do this, I can do fucking anything.
You can.
Was how I felt, So I had a discussion with one of the fellas that I was part of this group with for a while, and I said to him, I've got this book in my head, like I've even got the title of the book, and I did have, like, the title was birthed before I knew the thing, right? And he said to me, and he started to explain to me how I could tease that into the world. And over time,
it's come true.
That's what I've been doing. And then it just happened. I don't know, it just happened. And I met with a few different people, and one particular lady, beautiful soul, showed me how to structure it.
Wow.
And once that was done, away I went.
No stopping.
No stopping.
Now, the book is called tarot tells. I know this is backwards, but it's called tarot tells. Don't ask us how to try to do it. Flip it round because we're not going to try. It's called tarot tells. Now, what are tarot tells?
Okay, tarot tells. So it's tarot tells because it tells you additional information, right? So we can read a card and we can read the story and we can join the cards together, and that's great. And we can look at what house it's in and what that might mean. But this is a little different because it speaks to the layout that the cards find themselves in. So it's like reading the environment, right? So if you're reading the environment, technically, you're reading the reading within the reading.
In the reading.
Right? So there's the reading, which is all the cards laid out and what that might mean. And then there's reading that layout. And that's what it is.
Level, isn't it?
It is, and that's what it's all about. And that can show up in a fucking 100 different ways.
Million different ways, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything's different. Now, can anybody use the tells?
Absolutely. You don't have to even be a tarot reader to read the tells. You can do it with oracle cards, but you must remember you're not reading the card. You're reading the environment. And that's all the difference in this.
Cool. What difference do you think this book will make to tarot readers and reading tarot and reading oracle? What difference do you think?
You know, I don't know if I'm fucking deluded, but you know, I'd love to think that it's going to make a big difference in the world. I'm also aware that this book is not everyone's cup of tea, and not everyone will see or agree with the way that I've done this. And that's okay. This has been my journey, and this is how it's helped my clients and helped get underneath it. Even those that I mentor, it's helped them see and look at it very, very differently. So I hope that the world loves it and enjoys it and goes, oh my God, yeah, because it's stuff that it's always been there. It's like, it's that, you know, you can't see the forest for the trees type thing. So it's that, and knowing that it's always been there. But it's funny, a few Friday nights ago, I was in at the Tarot Guild, and a young fella there said to me, you know, how do we know what XYZ might mean? And I just went, oh, you're going to love next month's session, because that's what I call a tell. So people have been asking for it and wanting to know. So that was kind of the other thing, because he's not the first one, but he's the most recent one. And that's the other thing where I went, you are on for something. I can birth this, you know, so yeah.
And how do you think it's going to be different to all the other tarot books out there? Because there's millions of tarot books out there. How is your difference?
Yeah, I know. I wondered about that, because I'm like, am I reinventing the wheel? No, I don't think so. And that's the difference, is that this stuff, the tells, because in my book you'll find the foundational stuff, which you will find everywhere in every book, or in most books, there's foundational stuff there. So I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I've just kept that really simple. The second part of the book is the tarot tells, and the difference being, what was the question again? I got fucking distracted.
How is your book?
How is my book?
Your book
different.
Going to be different to all the other tarot books out there.
Okay. So that's right. So the second part of the book is where the difference comes in, and it's just explaining the layouts, and it's explaining the levels, and it's explaining. You're not going to, okay, I'll put it like this. You are not going to, once you understand this concept, you are not going to look at your reading the same way ever again.
No, you don't.
Because once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. It's that kind of thing. And it's this, I guess my book gives a way of broadening and expanding something that is logical in an intuitive space. So it's like this combination of creative thinking and intuitive feelings, however you work intuitively, along with some logic.
Exactly.
So it's like I'm like, is it logical thinking? Yeah. So that's how it's a little different. So it will enhance your intuition while being logic. There you go.
Okay. All right. Now getting back to basics. Tell me, how did you feel? How did you first start reading tarot? Reading.
Reading. So not my nana.
No, I'm going to
Not
go
my
back to your nana later.
Okay. All right. So in high school, my auntie had given me her deck of cards that were wrapped in black silk and I put in a little wooden box. And I always thought they were my nans, but I've since learned that I got that wrong, right? They were my aunties. And it was about, I don't know, I just had this in me. I just wanted to do it. So I would sit with friends, do you want to be the rich cats? Because they all wanted that.
Of course.
So, and I would sit on the footpath
Oh, God.
and read these cards. And I just focused on what that picture was saying, like based on.
Well, we'll go back to your nana now because
based on that.
what your nana said. But I will say, now when you read the book, you'll find out that Lou's nana was quite a progressive woman for her day.
Yeah.
Actually owning tarot cards, let alone reading them and having readings done for herself. But it's like, because at that time, and I imagine she was in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s? I
can't even remember. She would have been at that time, I think, because, well, she had them when I was 10, so she had them before then.
Yeah, so that's what.
So
that's what be 50s, 40s, 50s, wouldn't it? 1950s probably.
Yeah, I think so.
So around that time,
she had them pretty bloody early. Even if I said, because I knew she had them at 10, and she was pretty well versed in them then. Because I can remember coming home one day, and like my natural parents used to fight all the time, right? So that's what they did. And I came home this day. I remember walking up the stairs and in to the dining room, and there's these cards laid out, right? And my nan was saying about my mum's relationship, and I could hear this, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to know. So I went to my bedroom, but my natural father come up the stairs when he got home from work, because mum and nan were still sitting there. And there's the Three of Swords, right? Now, Dad doesn't read cards at all, right? But he goes up and he goes, because he didn't like it, right? He was funny old stick.
Yeah.
He tells you not psychic, he fucking is. Anyway, he goes up and he points to Three of Swords and he goes, oh, I suppose that means divorce, doesn't it? The whole house was quiet because that was exactly
what it was.
Exactly. And of course, years later that did happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting.
And because like what I was getting to, in that time of your nana having the cards and everything, it was illegal, wasn't it, to have readings done?
When she would have had them, when she first got into them, it was, which is really interesting, so I didn't know about that. And I believe like it wasn't illegal when my mum and nan were going around together and that I remember and going around together. This is in the late 70s, I think 76 or something. They're going around and they're getting their cards read. I don't believe it was illegal then, but I believe what happened is because of where my nan had come from and she had to hide it and all of that, she kind of shut everyone down. I think that's what happened there. And then of course you could read and do whatever the fuck you want. Here we are today. And then she bribed you to get your ears pierced, and then said, my God,
by saying if you get your ears pierced, you can read the cards.
She did. That was the funniest day, because we were she'd been saying to me all the way along, when you turn 10, you're going to get your ears pierced. And see, I always wanted my ears pierced and, loved my jewelry, right, and stuff like that. And used to look at Nana, because she was smothered in the rings and the bracelets, and she had earrings hanging off her and necklaces. And I want to be like Nana, right? And Nana would go out and buy like really funky clothes and shoes. Like you'd come home with some, coat of many colours that was covered in sequins. And
lovely.
A hat, like she was a really funky, quirky old lady. And that's cool. My mum fucking hated any of that. Like my mum was like, didn't have her ears pierced, didn't wear jewelry, didn't want to be like a mum, and then here's her daughter doing exactly that. So Nana was like, shush, you're going to get your ears pierced. Because I'd been begging, Mum, please can I have my ears done. And Mum was like, no, you're not getting them done, you don't need them done, you're too young, whatever. So much to my mother's disgust, I turned 10, and on that day, because I feel all the excitement inside me, right? Nana said, okay, get in the car. We're going down to Cleveland and you're going to get your ears pierced. And I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. Anyway, I got so excited, I was making myself sick. So I was like, I don't want to get my ears done, Nana. I don't want to get my ears. And you can imagine all the drama.
Oh, yes, to get this done.
To get this done. She's like, you are getting in that fucking shop and you are getting your ears done. I'm like, oh, Nana, I don't want to. And she's like, look, when you get back, if you get this done, when you get back, I'll let you have a look at my cards. I was like, okay.
You're fine.
Suddenly felt fine. I was thinking about the cards. And she, true to her word, we got back and she just said to me, sit there. And I'm like, here. She goes, sit there. And I'm right in the middle of the lounge room. I'm like, okay. And she gets them and she literally put them all around me.
Oh. How did you feel when she put them out? Oh.
I was like, oh my God, there's so many. And then I thought, I can't do this. And all the stories that you tell yourself, right? I think I was 10. And I was sitting there going, I can't do this, Nana. It doesn't make sense. Like, and she's talked a little bit and then walked away. And I think what was really happening was Nana was just thinking she'd entertain me like that.
Exactly, yes.
And it didn't mean anything. Yeah. Little did she know where that'd take me that one little afternoon. Yeah. So I felt overwhelmed, I guess, in that moment. Overwhelmed until she pulled a card that I could see what she was talking about.
Because she pulled the 3 of cups, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
And she said, what are they doing?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I was too scared to get it wrong because that'd be hard, you know. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to get it wrong. She had no patience, this woman. So I'm like, oh my God. And then she goes, oh, for God's sake, look at them. They're having they're celebrating. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that. And she's like, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because she said, well, you can read the cards, you can and you will.
Yeah, because I said to her, you can't read a picture, Nana. Yeah. She said, you can and you will. Shit, I better get this right. So.
But it wasn't only your Nana. Your dad he was big on his intuition. He didn't talk about it much, but he was big on his intuition.
Yeah, he'll still deny that he's psychic at all. He won't call it that. He just gets a feeling about things. That's how he puts it. Yeah, I had a feeling about that. Like, you know, I had a feeling that I should stand near that poker machine and play that one. And he gets, you know, 500 bucks. I'm like, oh my God, like, I would love some of that.
Yeah, exactly. Pass that on.
Yeah, I don't have it like that. But yeah, he just different things. I remember we were supposed to, we didn't go out very much. And as I said, my parents' relationship was a bit turbulent. So when they were getting on, my mum would want to go out for the day or out for the weekend or something, because you can imagine my dad had like 2 or 3 jobs. He was tired, he could be fucked, he didn't want to do anything. I was like, we're going. So we'd get in the car and as we'd get in, Dad would look at Mum and he'd say to her, I've got a bad feeling, I'm telling you something's going to happen. And she'd be like, oh, shut up with that shit, we're going, right? So I'm in the back thinking, oh my God. And we'd be driving along. And I can remember very distinctly, we were going to Wellington Point. We are going to go down the point. And we lived at Capalaba at the time, and we got to Capalaba and then through Birkdale, and we didn't get any further. Because this other cars, because back then it was just like 2 lanes.
Oh, 2 lanes,
2 lanes, right? Yes. And it's all dirt on the side of the road. So we're talking about a 15-minute, 20-minute drive, and we're like, I don't know, 10 minutes into it. Or maybe 8 minutes into it, something like that. And this car's coming the other way, and it's flicked up a stone.
Oh.
Smashed
it. No.
Like smashed it, like it just. No. And Dad pulled over, stopped the car, and I saw the look he gave Mum, and Mum's like, don't you fucking start. And he's like, I told you. And she's like, I told you not to start. And they're having this big argument, and I'm sitting in the back in awe. Oh my God, I want to be able to do that. Yeah. And from that point, like I spoke to him about it, and I'm like, Dad, how do you know? Yeah. How do you know? Like, how do you really know? Like, and he goes, oh, it's just a feeling. And I'm like, yeah, but how do you know? And he just said to me, just stop, be still, and then you'll feel. And I'm like, okay. So I then went on to develop that in a number of ways. But one of the things that I used to do was feel for police. So
So
I could tell. I think there's police up here. All right. I think don't
Yeah,
speed, Mum,
yeah.
because I think there's police.
Yeah.
And I'd be right every time. So that was a funny little side.
Yeah, it's almost like, in a way, your dad influenced you into
hugely.
starting to trust and really develop your intuition, wasn't it? In a way.
Yeah, he did. And I didn't really acknowledge any of that until I started to write the book,
Yeah.
and all the
It
memories
started
to come back. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh God, like that was actually Dad that did that, because when I say Nana is my mum's mum.
Mm.
So it's like I had this two-angled thing coming. Dad did it this way and Nana did it that way. And it was interesting.
Because it's funny, in the book you tell a funny story about your dad and you trying to bend a spoon with you.
Oh my God, yeah, that he was sitting at the I don't know, my memory shows me the dining room. So I think he was sitting in the dining room and he's reading his paper, as you did back then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you reading, Dad? And he's like, oh, I don't know what it was, but he was reading something and he said, oh, I'm reading about Russia and China. And he started telling me at that time how it was communist country. And I'm like, what's that? And he started telling me about it. And he explained it like, when you're little in those countries, if you look like you've got a gift or if your parents want to put you in to learn something, then that is all you do. That's all the time. Like you do it all the time till you get really good at it. And there was a thing about I don't know if it was spies or I don't know what the fuck it was about, but they were talking about telekinesis, right? Which is using your mind to bend an object, right? And I think it was it Uri Geller had been on TV a fair bit as well. So, and he would do all the mind spoon bending stuff. So Dad said to me, you can bend a spoon using your mind. And I'm like, no. And he goes, let's try. So we were sitting there trying to bend this spoon. Not allowed to do it. It was so funny. Oh, but a really good memory. Yeah,
it sounds beautiful. That connection with your dad on various levels, isn't it? So
it's interesting what this book's done for me because my dad and I didn't have the best of relationships as I got older, and always loved him and always visited him, but it was really strained and really hard. So to have to know and remember that this came up, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about that.
It's
so
lovely, isn't it?
It's been really cool,
So we'll get back to tarot now.
Oh, okay, of course.
We're just leading into the basis of this. So after many years of tarot practice, how did the tells start showing up for you? How did you start noticing them and putting them together?
I'd kind of dismissed them. I just, like everyone else, would just see them and read them and just not really think much about it. But it's the particular house that this happened in. So I use the Celtic cross and I use it in a very layered fashion, which just means that I'll lay 3 or 4 cards in each house. And I lay them like in separate order, like go around 1 at a time, and then I'll do 2 at a time. So it's, just this way that I lay it out. And in the house that is, I call the immediate future, which is like a 6 to 8 week roughly time frame. Time's hard to predict, right?
Exactly.
So roughly, I started to notice in there that there were cards missing. I might have only put 2 cards there, and it's completely unintentional.
Yeah, unconsciously, isn't it?
Totally did not mean to do that. And on a few occasions when that had happened, it just so happened also that the cards that were there were either swords or the devil, which is about your mind, right? And I remember thinking, gee, something's missing. Oh, and it's the mind. And so I would ask the person, I learned because I could feel it. So I asked them, like, do you experience a bit of anxiety and depression? They'd be like, oh, yeah. And I'd be like, fuck. And then, of course, when it happened again and again, I was like, oh, that's definitely a fucking thing. So I called it a tell.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know, like people have a
But-
tell,
a
they
tell,
might touch
yeah.
their face or scratch their head or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
They're
Yeah.
giving something away.
Exactly.
So this is how the tarot, I believe, gives something away to you that is not necessarily
Well, obvious, is it?
obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was how that first showed. And
Yeah.
that's when I started to really, I thought, if that's there,
What else is
what
there?
else is there?
Exactly.
And then I started to really look.
Yeah.
Mm.
And what decks, do you have separate decks? Do you use one deck for your clients, one deck for yourself? Or are they the same? Are they different?
You know, that's funny because I had this, still have my first deck I ever bought, and I used to use that for my clients only. That was a client only deck. That was the
Yeah.
one that anyone could touch because it was a client deck, right? And then I had this other deck, still a Rider-Waite deck, that I would use for meditation.
Yeah,
So
okay,
in a
yeah.
meditation circle, you know, people got to touch that, but it
Yeah.
was only for that. And I found that the energies were so different
Between the two decks?
between the two decks,
Wow.
even though they're exactly the same. So something I would encourage people to do is to test that, see if that
Yeah.
works that way for you. Now I pretty much, so I retired that other deck because it started to feel a bit off. And that's the other
Yeah.
thing I'd say to you is you got to be discerning, right? Around if something's feeling a bit off and you think it was a bit tired and needed retiring. So I retired it, still have it though. And then I took my meditation deck and I used that.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
because it was already kind of in
Already
my
in-
mind
yeah,
well established
yeah.
and integrated. So I use that. And now I don't worry so much about that anymore. But what I do is use different decks constantly.
Oh, okay.
So for the card of the day, you might see me use a different deck, right? But I don't necessarily read with those decks. So the Art Nouveau, I don't necessarily read with. I'm thinking of like what others I have.
You've got the dragon deck. We've showed the dragon deck.
Yeah, the dragon deck I love.
Yeah.
So it's really bright and vibrant. So I've started to incorporate that in my actual readings.
That's
So I'll
interesting.
use that as a card of the day.
Yes.
And I'll read with it. I use my Rider-Waite and I'll read with it, but I don't necessarily read with the light seers. I use that as card of the day. The Art Nouveau, I tend to use that as a card of the day. The Witch's Tarot, I tend to use that, or the Crow Tarot. All of that is kind of really just the card of the day. And the others are like what I call my working deck. So
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. So
very
yeah,
interesting.
I've changes I've gone along. Yeah.
As you developed. Now, with the book, Lou has structured this into two sections. And now the first section is all about the introduction and the foundation of tarot, history of the tarot. And then she goes on, part two, to the tells.
Yeah.
Now, are you, or is this book for beginners as well as professional or well-established readers, or can anybody do it?
Yeah, I think anyone can do it.
So,
Because it's not a traditional tarot book, right? That's the difference. We were talking about the difference before, because we're reading the layout of the cards. And so I think any level can pick it up. And I think if you're new to tarot, it gives you the basics, like I said, the foundational stuff at the front, and then you start to understand how the reading is within the reading.
Exactly.
And that gives you the additional information, because it's not technically reading the card.
It's not reading the cards. You do give meanings of the cards, but they're very brief.
Yeah.
And it really is what I found is you're giving a brief meaning, but then allowing you to work out your own meanings of the
Absolutely. If it's anything I've learned is that you need to trust yourself.
Yes.
And that people will experience tarot in their own way and put their own meanings and concepts to it. And so I feel like what this does is it allows people who are quite logical to see that they can still work intuitively.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really think it helps develop that, that part of it. Yeah.
Now, I know you've given an example of a tell, like when you first started. What's another tell that you can share? What's another tell?
So one of the things that I started to pick up and learn quite early was that sometimes, and at first I blamed myself, right? Clients would come in and I'd be in a hurry and I'd lay the cards down. I'm like, right, let's get to it. And then other times I would be really meticulous with it
Mm.
and straightening it up and making sure it's all ordered and in complete
Yeah.
alignment, like two extremes, right? And that's when I realized, oh, hang on, this isn't
That's
actually
not
me.
you.
Because I couldn't give a fuck whether it's that straight or not.
Just how they lay out, it's fine.
Yeah, how they lay out is fine. And yet this particular person came in and I stopped and I thought, I wonder what that might be about. So I said to her, do you like things particularly in place? And she said, oh, yes. And I was like, yeah, I can tell. So, you know, so it was a tell again, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So, yeah, we learn to pay attention to how fast we lay the cards out, how slow, how methodical, whether we're stopping to straighten things up or whether it's higgledy-piggledy. All
It's interesting.
tells
And
you
we're
something.
doing this quite unconsciously sometimes
Totally.
too. So it's like, yeah, sit up and take notice how you've laid them out without actually being conscious of what you're doing.
Yeah,
Another tell.
absolutely. It's a
Yeah.
thing, hey, and you'll see it
Yeah,
as you
you'll
go
see it,
along.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in your book, you reference various other tarot readers and authors.
Mhm.
Who has been your biggest influence?
Oh, apart from my nan and my auntie, I would have to say I got a lot out of Rachel Pollock's stuff, and I do
Okay.
mention her
Yes, you do.
in
Yeah.
the deck, and I also mention Marcus
Marcus
Katz in the deck
yeah.
because I tend to follow them a fair bit. Yeah, Rachel Pollock, I think, because it was one of the books that I actually resonated with.
Mhm.
She did a quite an in-depth reading with that. So they're the ones I
They're the
feel
main ones.
that have influenced me, like, because back in the day, you didn't have social media
No,
where you could
didn't.
just jump on and
Yeah.
have a look. There was none of that. And the other tarot books that I had been gifted were not necessarily about how to read tarot, but were of the either the history of it or of all the different decks.
Yeah.
So the books were great that I was given, but they didn't necessarily teach me that
Yeah.
or explain that to me. They didn't have different readers and what the different
Yeah,
readers
exactly.
did.
Yeah.
That sort of came about a little bit later. There is a book that I love, and I've forgotten the name of it, but why I love it is it's connected to the Rider-Waite deck, and its insights, its content inside teaches exactly the same way that I
It
do.
is. It looks at the
Which
symbols of each
It
card.
looks at
doesn't
the
it?
symbol
Yeah.
of each card. So it
Yeah.
gives you a meaning of the card of the day, what it is to do with relationships, what it is if you're looking for a spiritual message. So real little tiny 1 or 2 sentences, right? Which is
It's just a
awesome.
start for you
Just
to
a
go.
start for you to go through.
further.
Yeah. And then it breaks down all the symbols. And I love that book.
Yes.
That's been a big influence
Exactly.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with some of the explanations of the full card meaning in there.
Yeah.
However, it's his concept and how he teaches it. So that I find fascinating. When I come across it, I'm like, oh my God, it was another person who does this, you know. So I've recommended that book heaps and heaps and heaps. Yeah.
Now, are there more to come? Are there more tells to come?
You know, I reckon there is. And because you're always learning, right?
Yeah.
What I think is really cool here, because I've gone and trademarked the tarot tells, because I'm like, I'll trademark that bloody thing. And so I've done that, thank God. But I believe that, like, I've invited the reader to actually create some of their own.
Oh, that's good.
So, and what I would love to do is actually collectively put all that together so that it's like a community.
Yeah, it is. It's like
some more tells, as well as I dare say there's, I don't know what it is, I can just feel it in me, I'm not quite sure it's reversed itself yet, but yeah.
So what's next? What's next for Tarot Tells? Is another book coming?
Potentially, yeah, and I think like I said, the community collection, but also, I don't know, I'm just, it'd be interesting to watch where this goes.
Yeah, watch this space. Something else is coming.
Yeah, because I can feel something and I'm like, oh, I'm not even sure what that is myself, which is how I felt all
All
those
those
years
years
ago
ago.
when things started to store in my head, and I'm like, I've got to get this out. And when I did get it out, all these memories came, and
Which
all
has
of
been
these
quite
other things.
cathartic anyway,
Very
and
cathartic,
healing,
very healing,
healing as well.
very,
So
very healing.
it's really been a great experience for you on many levels, isn't it?
Totally.
Many levels.
Totally. And I think what I'm excited about too is it's like this is this legacy that I get to leave,
Yes,
you know.
exactly.
That someone came and someone uncomplicated the world of tarot, and someone looked beyond the card
Exactly.
and said, hey, maybe we could incorporate this.
Yes.
So I'm pretty excited about
Yeah,
that.
so look out for Tarot Tells. Now you can get it from Lou's website,
You can.
which is
lulufletcher.com.au.
yes.
And also you can get it on Amazon and Booktopia. I don't know why, what price they put on it is insane. I cannot control that, and I cannot control the distribution on those sites. I can on my own though. So
that's called Tarot Tells by Lulu Fletcher.
Oh, thank you, Tren.
Look out for it. So thank you for being.
Yeah. Really hope you enjoyed that. Something a bit different.
Something a bit different, but yeah, like I said, look out for the book and grab it when you see it, because it is in a few of the new age spiritual shops. So look out for it. But like I said, I have read some of. I have been, lucky enough to be seeing some of this before it is actually printed. And it's just really exciting. So I'm just looking forward to really getting to and develop my own tells as well.
Your own tells. It's like a new way of reading.
Yeah,
incorporating reading. So it's like the next level. That's how I see it.
Yeah, exactly. And we're all becoming next level readers anyway, aren't we?
Absolutely. So, next level readers.
So thank you very much for watching and listening today.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Lou, for the Tarot Tells.
Have a great day, guys.
Okay, see you later.
Bye.